just a couple things real quick on the injury front. Kind of been working through some things with Blake Braun, and Blake during the bye week took a little shot to the head and didn't quite bounce back the way that he wanted to, certainly that we wanted him to. He's got a little bit of a history with these injuries, and so after consulting with our staff, our medical staff, and his family, Blake is going to medically retire. And so I want to obviously wish him well. He'll finish his education here at Montana State. Hopefully he'll be able to graduate in the summer and move forward with his life. And so it's been an important part of our program, and certainly want to wish him the best. Also on the media front, I know that Bill has talked to you guys about that, but one thing I will do is I'll be available on Wednesday. I can't do it tomorrow because I've got some obligations, so if you need me on Wednesday, I'll be available on Wednesday. Obviously, our coaches are available as well. And so that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'll leave.
What sort of problems does Montana bring?
Well, I think they're an interesting team because right now it kind of depends on who's playing quarterback. They're stylistically somewhat different with Chad Choate playing versus Brady Gustafson. I think Brady they did what they did. They were you could see kind of the system in place with Brady, and it's not dramatically different with Chad, but there's a higher emphasis on the runs, and he's willing and maybe a little bit more effective running the ball as a quarterback. And so I think some of the challenges that they present are going to depend on who's playing quarterback. Their tempo is obviously something that they thrive on. They're trying to get that 90 to 100 plays a game, and I think when they really get going on offense, you see that's a huge element of that. And so winning first down is an important part of that. Not allowing them to get that first down within a drive and start to get into their tempo mode. One of the guys that I really feel like drives their offense is Jerry Louis McGee. Not necessarily from a vertical passing standpoint, but they get the ball out to him and he gets 6, 8, 10, 12 yards. They're right up on the line again. They're giving it to him again and forces you to soften your edges a little bit, and that opens up some things for him in their inside zone game. And then obviously they'll pop him off the ball, and then they can take some vertical shots. And so on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's a combination of really all three things: the tempo, the scheme, and some of the personnel. On defense, I think that they are a very good front seven. Really like their personnel up front. A lot of long, athletic guys on the defensive line in particular. Active linebackers. The bus kid, number 42, I think he's a very good pass rusher. He's probably a taller, bigger version of Mac, and I think he's a very active, good player. Caleb Kidder's a big guy inside, very active, does a nice job with using his hands, bats down a lot of balls because of his length. So they've got a handful of guys on that defensive side of the ball that concern you as well. And they're, especially when they get you into definite passing situations, they've got some exotic fronts and blitzes that they use and try to create confusion, and have really done a nice job of that.
The way that, like you said, the way that they get into tempo and stuff like that, but do you feel like if the blueprint kind of is if you don't give up the big play, you can take advantage of that a little bit? Do you see that on film?
Well, I think they're going to get into it's really, I mean, obviously after an explosive, that's when it's really going to start to elevate, but to me, it's really even just the first down. When you say an explosive to us, that's a pass of over 12 yards, run of over 10. But when they throw the ball out there and they get a quick screen and it goes for 9 yards, that essentially they're in 4-down territory once they're outside the 30-yard line, and so you've got to kind of consider that a tempo opportunity for them. And like I said, I think that's one of the reasons why I really feel like the Louis McGee kid drives a lot of their offense because of his ability to kind of make those things happen. He's a dynamic player, and he'll reverse field on you, and obviously had that tremendous highlight punt return against Northern Iowa early in the year that was kind of the catalyst for their victory in that game. And he's a good player. It's kind of interesting. You got a couple of North Idaho kids kind of connecting right now for those guys. I know Chad Choate is a Coeur d'Alene High grad, kid that I'm familiar with, and his dad's actually a Western Montana Bulldog. And then the Louis McGee kid being a Lake City grad. Byron obviously knows a lot of those guys, and he played for Byron's high school coach. So a couple pretty good players for him coming out of North Idaho.
When you've got a passing game like theirs, you've talked about pressure over coverage, but does pressure change when they get the ball out so fast, or how you approach that?
Yeah, I think you got to be smart about that. I mean, there's going to be opportunities. You have to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable, and there's a number of ways to do that. Sometimes that is with pressure, and other times that's with mixing coverage and trying to create some indecision in their mind. I think you've got to be smart about bringing the house against these guys. I've played a lot of teams that are this style, and feel like have a pretty good idea of how we want to go about defending it. But what I think they try to do is really make it a matchup game. And when I watch them on film, I think they do a nice job of creating those matchups once they identify kind of what your plan is and moving some guys around and put them in positions to have an advantage.
How did Northern Colorado impact them by always dropping 8?
Yeah, well, I think it made them earn it. You know, took away some of the vertical options down the field. And really, Montana did kind of take what they gave them. I mean, they ran the ball effectively and would kind of march the ball down the field, but UNC just didn't give up a bunch of explosive plays and kind of made Montana earn it. And then they were efficient on offense too, because I think that's one of the ways that you have to be able to defend a style like this is possessing the football. You know, once you get into that kind of shootout, you look at, like, I'm watching the Idaho State game, and they're kind of going blow for blow in the first half. Well, you know, dam's going to break at some point on that, and you know, that's where you don't necessarily want to go shot for shot with these guys. You want to try to say, okay, how do we steal a possession? And you can do that a number of ways, obviously by creating a takeaway, getting a key special teams play, but also eliminating possessions can be done by possessing the football. And so those are things that I think you got to be cautious of, because they have given up some explosive plays, especially in recent weeks, and that doesn't necessarily always mean a negative for them, because they're getting one or two more than the opponent. And so we've just got to be smart about how we mix our coverages, how we defend them, keep the ball in front of us, and then I think, again, a big part of our ability to defend a style like this is our ability to control the ball.
What's it like to be really involved in this rivalry for the first time?
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it. I mean, this is why you coach. This is why you compete and play. And I think this is a big reason why young men come to places like Montana and Montana State, in particular for this rivalry, because it is special and unique, especially at our level. And I love big games. I mean, that's what I live for. I mean, I've had great fortune to be a part of some really cool rivalries and been a part of some really big games, and those are the ones you remember. And so I feel very blessed to be in this position, and certainly understand the magnitude and the importance of this game, not just for our program, but for our alumni, for our university, and for the state of Montana.
Did you know about the rivalry?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I went to school in this state. You know, I was coached by a couple former Griz and worked with some. And you know, when I was at Boise State, we had Pete Kwiatkowski and Brent Pease. So Kwiatkowski was here as a Cat for a long time as a defensive coordinator for Coach Kramer, and Coach Pease was a Griz quarterback and coached on the '95 national championship team. And so we had some healthy conversations in the staff rooms. There was maybe I'm not going to go into depth on what might have been on the line, because I don't want to get those guys in trouble with the NCAA. But there was a lot of lively banter about the Cat-Griz game.
Have guys in your staff like Ty Gregorak and K&I, guys who've been around it for so long, they give you some insight as to what it's like coaching in the game, not necessarily also being around it?
Yeah, from a coaching standpoint, I've been in big games. I've been in big venues, and I know this is going to be right up there in terms of the level of intensity and the passion and the energy in the arena. And coaching in big games is what you live for, and that's why you do it. It makes you better as a coach. I think you have to have been in those situations to fully appreciate and understand it. And the bigger the moment, the more poise you got to have as a coach.
What does a game like Saturday do for Chris's confidence before his biggest test?
I think it was just more him really understanding what we've tried to tell him. It's like, yeah, you're right. If we take care of the ball, we have a chance to win. And I think he really appreciated that. He valued the football and made decisions that exhibited that value that he has for the football, instead of just talking about it. And I thought that was a major step in the right direction for him. I think he realized, hey, me tucking the ball and picking up 6 yards is still a good play. Me throwing the ball out of bounds and not to them, that's still a good play. And I think also having the ability to hand the ball to a guy like Chad behind him, that gives him a little bit of confidence as well. And I know this, I think Chad really likes being a running back with him in the game, because you're going to have to defend the edges of our offense. And if you don't, then he's going to pull the ball. And so that creates kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword. From defending a quarterback like Chris presents its own set of challenges, not unlike what Montana does on offense, just in a different way.
How would a win Saturday kind of change the perspective of the season for you guys?
Yeah, it's I don't even think it's about the season. I mean, I think it's really about just our program and some of the goals that we have here and the things that we want to accomplish. And I think certainly creating momentum into the off-season is important. I understand how important this game is and what it means to people around the state. And even Bill's excited this week. He's fired up. Man. He's knocking stuff over, man. So we might let him lead us out of the tunnel. But it's it's a forever game for our players, for us as coaches, and it's a 365-day-a-year deal. And so I know this. The first thing I'm going to get told or asked about wherever I go from the end of the season on in the state of Montana is, how did that game go this Saturday up there?
How do you like the matchup between your offense and their defense? They bring pressure for so many.
Yeah, they get after it. And they actually have been a little bit more vanilla in the last couple weeks. When you get to definite drop back situations, that's not a good situation really for anybody, because anybody that's been in that predicament against them has felt the wrath of kind of their, what I call their bogus pressure stuff, where they're showing a lot of guys and some of them are coming, some of them aren't. And sometimes they all come, and I think they can win one-on-one matchups too. I think that they're talented enough to do that with some of the guys they have up front, and so that's a real critical thing to keep an eye on. And are we in those third and 6, 3rd and 7+ situations where they know we got to drop back and throw the ball, or are we able to consistently stay in our manageable yard down distances and kind of utilize our offense? And so I think that's going to be something to pay attention to in the course of the game.
How did you think Dylan played back at left tackle on Saturday, and how did he respond after?
I thought he played really well. He feels good. He's a good player. He really is, and I can see a difference for us. And I think Mitch getting back to his natural spot over there at the right side. JP kind of having his security blanket right next to him on the left side. I thought our offensive line played very, very well on Saturday, and we're going to have to match that again.
You mentioned a couple of your mentors that have ties to this rivalry. Will you reach out to them, either of the Knicks?
I'm not allowed to talk about what might or might not happen. It's part of the deal.
What do you think the key to winning this game will be?
Well, I think it's the key to any football game. I think number one, there's going to be that performance anxiety curve. You got to get into the game, because I think really the young men on both sides are going to be excited, and there's going to be a lot of energy. And so being able to just kind of manage that first 5 minutes of the game and make sure that you play within yourself and don't try to do too much, and certainly not make any mistakes that are going to cost your team. And then it's going to be, okay, now we're in it, let's find out what's going on. Now it becomes kind of that chess match and the counter punching in terms of what they're trying to do on offense and how we can counteract that on defense, and the same thing on the other side of the ball. And so at the end of the day, what's this going to come down to? It's going to come down to execution. I think it's going to come down to, for us, it's going to be the run game and taking care of the football and being able to generate some explosive plays. And I think if you were to ask Coach Stitt, he'd probably agree with that. On their side too, I think they're going to have to be able to run the ball at times to take advantage of some of the looks, because that's, and they do that anyway. It's built into their package. They're a box count team, and they're going to look at how many guys you got in the box and how you're playing the perimeter, and they're either going to run the ball inside or they're going to throw it outside. And so, I think that's going to be a part of it, is are they going to be able to effectively run the ball? Because now that puts a lot of stress on us. What are we going to commit our resources to stop? And then I think the explosive plays, are they going to be able to generate those vertical plays down the field like they have been, especially at home in the last month of the season? And then obviously taking care of the football.
Ty spent a little time, more time on the sideline the last couple of weeks during games. What's gone into that, and what have you got?
At the end of the Southern Utah game, I just told them to come down. I just felt like our energy wasn't right, and I wanted to make sure that we kind of got those guys where we wanted them mentally to go compete. And then going into this game, we actually had that plan. We talked about, hey, stay up for the first half, get a feel for what's going on, and then we'll bring you down. And so we've had some preliminary conversations about kind of how we think things will go, and we'll have our plan in place and operate that way on Saturday.
Will you tell him anything going into this game, Ty?
Tell him anything.
I mean, just what do you anticipate his emotions to be like?
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. I know this is an important game and meaningful for him. I mean, I've gone back and coached at places that I've been at, and it's the pregame is a little awkward, because you got those kids that you recruited and you have a relationship with, and oftentimes former colleagues, and so you kind of dance around that a little bit, and then once the whistle blows, we're playing ball.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.